all aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Welcome to Chicago Junction, the monthly radio show that looks at railroads and railroading, past, present, and future. Now here's our chief dispatcher and supervisor of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network, John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the northwest side on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, June the 9th. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Brian DeBure.
Thank you, John. Now introducing our conductor for today's journey, Jack Red Ryan.
Thank you, Brian Valou. And good evening and hello, whatever time of day it is you're listening, folks. It's a beautiful June day here in Chicago, and let's hope we have more and more days like it. We are committing this show to eternal life and everlasting life. On today is the 9th of June. Year of our Lord, 2014. Anno Domini. And we hope everyone's having an okay day. And we have kind of a free-form show today. I understand the panel has a lot to talk about. So let's start with the introduction. Starting to my left, sir, we have Bennett Cerf. And right next to him, Arlene Francis. And then we have, who are you, sir?
Doug Kenyuk, representing Short Lines, Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago.
Yes, sir. And next up?
Brian Valou, Chicago Area Garden Railway Society and National Railway Historical Society, Chicago chapter.
Next case?
Dave DeRuska, representing retired railroaders everywhere.
Sir.
Kevin Berry, at least a member of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club.
And I am Jack Ryan, and I am representing all of the really totally unknowledgeable but interested people in the world, because I am amazed at the knowledge and the expertise we have here, and let's make some use of it. Start with, okay, who's got anything to start with? Let's see, Dave Derushka. Anything?
Yeah, we've got on our Facebook page, which is Chicago Junction, we have calendar events coming up June 11th, and I think people will probably talk a little more about them. 20th Century Railroad Club, 6:30 p.m. doors open, 7 p.m. program. I'm not sure what the program is this month. Also, Railroad and Short Lines Club on Friday, June 20th, Illinois Terminal. And
that's freight operations, not the passenger.
Oh, okay. On June the 13th, the Railway and Locomotive Historical Society, which meets at the Chicago Temple at 77 West Washington, 3rd floor. If you're interested, there's an informal dinner at 5:30 at Maxime's. Sounds like a fancy place. It's not. At Clark and Madison. And their program this month is Railroads of Australia. And on the same day competing, the Chicago chapter of the National Railway Historical Society, 8 to 10 p.m. at the Lincoln Center, 935 Maple in Downers Grove. And that program is to be announced. June 27th, Central Electric Railfans Association. They meet at the University Center at 523 South State Street, 2nd floor, and their program is Farewell to Chicago Streetcars. Non-members are $5. All the other programs that I mentioned are free.
Well, $5. What can you do with $5 these days?
Not much.
Throw it away?
Did they say who the speaker's going to be for the farewell?
No, they didn't, as a matter of fact.
Okay, well, who is that? Can you repeat that one? Just it sounds very interesting to me.
The Central Electric Railfans Association.
Mm-hmm.
That's on June 27th at the University Center at 523 South State Street, the 2nd floor. I didn't write the time down. I believe it's probably 7 o'clock. And the program is Farewell to Chicago Streetcars.
Central Rail Fans?
Central Electric Rail Fans Association, CERA. And again, all these events are listed on our Facebook page. I've updated
Okay,
them.
oh, okay, very good. That's, well, it would pay me to take a look at that now and again, would it? No one else will look at it if we don't. Okay, who's up next? Brian?
Sure. We got something coming up the weekend. In fact, this coming weekend on the 3rd, starting Friday through Sunday, 13th, 14th, and 15th, at the Wasco Nursery and Garden Center in St. Charles, Illinois. What we're going to basically talk garden railroads. How to set up your garden railroad, what it takes to get it started, and to show that you don't have any. They have several displays there to show you that it doesn't have to be big and elaborate. You could do it in, like, say, a 6x6 box. You can put a nice little layout together.
What day is that again?
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, June 13th, 14th, and 15th. Starting at 9 a.m. in the morning. On Friday, going to 7 p.m. On Saturday, going to 5 p.m. And then Sunday, they start at 10 a.m., going to 5 p.m.
St. Charles, and the garden center is, again?
The Wasco Nursery and Garden Center.
W?
WASCO. At 41 W 781 Route 64.
Okay, Route 64. Isn't that North Avenue?
Yes.
How about that? I knowed something.
There you go.
Anything else right now? For now?
Not for right now.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, something came up.
Doug Kenyuk?
Hi, this is Doug. I was looking around. This is Model Railroad news. For you people who see the Lego trains, there's now one available for N scale. It's called Nano Gauge. And it's miniature, tiny Legos you use to build N scale size trains and buildings and stuff. Something I came across while looking for some other stuff at N scale.
Well,
It's called Nano Gauge. Nano Gauge. Right.
Why not?
Sounds like science fiction. Nanobots.
Yes.
It's getting there shortly.
Well, they did come out with a new commercial gauge called a Quad T gauge. It's 4 millimeters between the rail heads. Rails are steel, wheels are magnetized. You can hold the whole thing on your complete train set on your finger.
I think that's the one that Suave, another member of the Chicagoland Railroad Club, Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, was talking about Saturday, that the power source for the engine is actually the same power source for the vibrator on your telephone. When you switch your telephone to vibrating mode, Brian, don't go there.
Oh, everybody else will help me and you go for me. Okay.
I know where you're going to take it. Don't go there, because it'll be right to the end of the line with you, sir.
It's going in the tunnel.
The family show.
Oh, we're talking for
Oh, Lord love a dog.
Go ahead. Please.
I've only got a little tease on something. The last Saturday in September out at the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club out in New Lenox, and we'll talk about it again prior to that date, Lionel will be rolling out some new product. So there'll be a special open house. That would be the Saturday after the regular open house. And there'll be new products on display. And it'll be an open to the public event, as I understand it, from 9 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. Now, Lionel has, over the past several years, gotten real fond of rolling out their new products at the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, because the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club is the largest Lionel club in the Midwest. So I'm real interested in seeing what they're going to come out with. A couple of years ago, they started re-releasing a lot of the more popular cars from in the 50s and 60s, what was referred to as the SAMAT, the Science, Action, and Military trains. You know, that's like the helicopter car, the submarine car, the rocket launching Minuteman car. So I'm really interested in seeing what they're going to come out with.
Exploding boxcar.
Yeah, well, that goes hand in hand with the missile. Strange you should mention that. My eldest daughter is 30. She happens to have a PhD in companion animal nutrition and works for the Mars Corporation down in Nashville.
Wait. Is that a pet? Companion animal?
Yes.
Okay, I just was wondering if
Yeah, puppies and kittens. When she was 2.5 years old, she saw me playing with the train set. It took her exactly 15 minutes of moving the train around the track to figure out exactly where to stop the train so the Minuteman launch car was in the right spot to launch and hit the exploding boxcar and make it blow up. So I don't know how you make the jump from applied physics to better animal feed, but I'm blaming Lionel for that one.
Well, she's a PhD, right?
Yeah,
Well, she was showing early promise then.
apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Animal companions. That sounds like a California term.
I'm not going there on that one either.
Didn't they have some law that they can't have animal companions? They have. Oh no, you can't have pets. You have animal companions there or something recently.
You know, California,
Not bad.
one of these days, God in His infinite mercy is going to cause the San Andreas Fault to go active, and Utah is going to be right there on the ocean.
I saw that in Superman. He stopped it from happening though.
Even Superman can have bad judgment.
Do you know whose fault that was? It was San Andreas' fault. That's what. Who? Choo-choo. Anyway.
Somebody hit him before I do.
Anyway, I'm here to.
Question on the Lionel release: are they going to include the 6464 boxcars
You know,
series?
I don't know. Right now, all I know is that they're going to be showing new product. I hope over the summer to get more information, and if I come into possession of it, I'll be more than glad to share it.
Actually, over the last 10 years, they have been doing releases of the 64 series cars.
Oh, okay.
In 2-packs and 3-packs.
Yeah, part of the post-war celebration. All of those cars have a very small PW script underneath the car number, so that the new issue doesn't get confused with the original, because they issue them in the same color schemes.
Okay.
But I don't know what they're going to come out with, if they're going to be reissuing any of the vintage accessories, or which trains or which cars they're going to come up with. I'm looking forward to it. I'm still waiting to get my set of Baldwin RF-16 ABA engines that are the first ones that Lionel has factory issued with a weathered paint job.
Okay. Now this time is September is going to be at out in New Lenox at your place.
Yes.
Now open to the public, right? Everybody. Is there admission for that or a cover? Or?
I believe it will be open to the public. There may be a small fee, and when I get it, I'll let you know.
How about amenities? Will be refreshments, food available?
Yes, definitely. That's my area of responsibility.
Then count me in. So, anybody anything else?
Yeah, the Illinois Railway Museum has started a campaign to get the Electroliner to run again for its 75th anniversary. The Electroliner was a modern train set on the Chicago North Shore and Milwaukee Railroad. The trains ended up going to Philadelphia, where they were part of the Red Arrow system, and the Illinois Rail Museum acquired one set, which has been cosmetically restored and is in a car barn there, but they would like to get the train running. Their campaign says the work will take about an estimated $100,000, a lot of it electrical work, but also some cosmetic work on the interior. And Anybody interested in finding out more about this can go to their Facebook page, www.facebook.com/electroliner.
Now, I think I understand what cosmetic means, but would that mean just the appearance but not the function? Is that
Right.
what that is?
Right. They repainted it back into the original Electroliner colors, and actually looks really nice.
And the other one is in Rock Hill, Pennsylvania, attached to the East Broadtop Railroad, to their trolley museum, and they were called Liberty Liners when they ran in Philadelphia on the Norristown high-speed line. And they have just finished doing the electrical work, and they do have it running. And they've actually cleaned it up quite good in their scheme, and again, it looks pretty sharp.
Refresh my memory. The Electroliner is the one that's in the dark topaz blue with the orange striping.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a striking paint job.
Right.
The Illinois Railway Museum is a tremendous place. It's almost as big as Grant Park, if I remember correctly. And the air's so clean you can't hardly breathe it. It's surrounded by cornfields on three sides. And anybody that's ever seen the movie A League of Their Own, all the railroad scenes for that movie were actually shot up at Union.
That's correct.
Now they had two participating locomotives at the Streamliners at Spencer. They had the Burlington Northern,
Yep, the E5.
and they had the CNNW 411, the F7.
Yes, it did.
And I just saw some pictures posted on Facebook, and actually those cars are en route. I guess yesterday I saw the photos. They were sitting at Global One, and attached to those two locomotives is also the CNNW 1689, which is an RSD5, which I believe is going to be on temporary loan to IRM from a private owner. Nice looking locomotive, and they say it runs well.
Ah. Yeah, speaking of which, a couple weeks ago, the week before the Streamliner event, I got a call from a friend of mine to come down to Cicero to the BN yard, and I'm telling you before, the totally rebuilt Alco PA
Oh, right, yeah.
in nickel plate colors, 190, was sitting there, having just come in from the West Coast by BN.
Now, is that operational?
Yes. But he still has a little bit more tweaking to do. But I was there. Mr. McCormick was there. And they were getting ready to transfer it over to Norfolk Southern for them to complete the journey to Spencer. And the pictures that I have seen from that show was just phenomenal, some of the photos that they took.
How many locomotives did they have out there?
They had 25 diesels. The last entry in there was the FT set from St. Louis.
Right, now the FT is the original Bulldog nose locomotive.
Freight locomotive.
Freight
yeah.
locomotive that EMD, Electromotive Division, manufactured that really changed railroading.
Electromotive is General Motors?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the plant in McCook?
Yes.
Yes.
Still operating, I believe.
Actually, the laboratory is, yes.
Mhm.
They still do engine tests there.
Okay, that's good to know.
But they built, they have been sold. Their new owner is Caterpillar.
Oh. Caterpillar tractor?
And they build a whole new factory, in fact, down in Indiana.
Will they be doing the same thing there? or-
Yep.
Okay. Who built the new plant? Caterpillar?
Yeah, Caterpillar Progressive.
Are they from Peoria originally, or
Well, Caterpillar's headquarters are in Peoria, I
Yeah.
believe.
are they still there?
Yeah. We haven't chased them out yet.
Well, I
But-
just, I mean, yeah, we're doing our
Springfield
best.
hasn't gotten rid of them yet.
They're doing their
They're
best.
working on it.
Yeah, but they still got the heavy mining equipment and stuff. Is what they're famous for.
Okay. I know that Joey Brown in the 30s made the movie called Earthworm Tractors. It was kind of based on Caterpillar, and they premiered it in Peoria. So that's a little footnote for that I can add to. Now, anybody else got anything? Come on, we got something else. Got to fill this time up here.
Well, yeah, there's a new website called Chicago Southland Rail. and basically for all the sites, rail sites, and it's just come up, and they talk about the different train spotting locations, railroad themed restaurants, and basically along the Illinois Central Rail Trail was basically all along the electric line. Talks a little bit about the Pullman Historic District, but this is a website that rail fans would like to use, those coming in and visiting from out of state and all, and tell them where to go to be able to see trains.
Which is an interesting point, because for those of us who do still take a automobile trip sometimes on a vacation, you never know what you're going to run into. So if we have a certain guide we can look at to know where the rail places are, or
Yes, if they go to the website, ChicagoSouthlandRail.com, they have like the Illinois Rail Trail. You go to that, and or restaurants. It can tell you where you go, like the Flossmoor Station and Brewery.
Mhm.
That was an actual Illinois Central Station, then became Metro Station. We still use the platform there for the electric trains to stop, but the station was basically redundant, so Metro sold it. A husband-wife lawyer team bought it and turned it into a wonderful restaurant and microbrewery. The food there is
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
good chow. Very good. And the beer is good, too.
Yes, it is.
this is their own brew then.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, they brew it on
They
site.
they have a lot of different brews and different tastes. Most of their drinks, the beverages, have railroad-themed names. And during the summer, they brought in a caboose and converted it, and that's an ice cream stand
Flossmoor.
at Flossmoor Station.
That's
Homewood
what
Farm.
I was trying to remember. I knew one was coming in, and I couldn't
Oh yeah,
remember where.
that's where it's been for. Trust me, it's a wonderful place to stop, and you get some good smells coming out of there.
Yeah, right. I used to stop right now opposite the caboose, and the kids would be out there with the ice cream, and I'd put my hand out the door, and I'd like, "Hey, kid, would you mind sharing it?"
Yeah, because we're
stop
literally
right there.
shake hands with them.
Well, it's good to have some good odors, aromas now and again, isn't it?
Yeah, there's enough bad ones around the railroad.
We know that.
Going back about 10 years, and I want to say it might have been in Homewood, I'm not sure. Someone had bought an Amtrak diner car and converted it into an ice cream place, and it was called Graham's Central Station, but unfortunately it went out of business. And all the ice cream offerings were named for the different railroads. Because I know there was a Katy Flyer Sunday. Unfortunately, it's trotted off into the places of fond memory, and very much like Snackville Junction, which is now gone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it also lists trains with spotting locations.
Okay.
Where can you go see trains? Like at Blue Island, you can stand at the platform there. You have trains coming in from Metra. You've got Iowa Interstate. That's where their yard is. You have also Metra. You got both the trains coming on the Rock Island line and Beverly Sub, but also the Metro Electric line there.
And Rail Link.
And you got Rail Link coming in. CSX comes in through there.
Now, might really sound dumb or stupid, but okay, you got all these different rails that are owned by different companies. Now, if I come in from another company, I have to pay to use your line. Is that it? Your rail?
Well, you have an agreement.
Is that what it is? Well, there's obviously going to be some monetary, because they're in business,
There
right?
is you might have to pick up a little bit of the track work price.
No, I mean, I didn't say I'd pay them as I go in, but, there has to be some arrangement before.
No, there's no toll booth.
No.
We don't have that. Yeah, you don't, like from the old Rock Island saw, when you go
Fooled
into
ya?
Mississippi.
Yeah. Now, I fooled you, right? I got pig iron or whatever?
I got pigs.
Yeah. But not
I
iron.
fooled you, I got pig iron.
Iron. I know there was something like
Johnny Cash does a much better job of singing it than I ever will.
that. Well, yeah, he's got his all beat, even now.
Well,
Yes.
if you're waiting for us to give a comment to try to contradict you, forget it.
No, my singing violates 4 United Nations resolutions.
What about
Yeah.
the St. Charles airline? Who owns that?
That's it's Canadian National
Is it
now.
CN?
Yeah.
I know it was privately owned at one time, right?
Yes, it was privately owned, but IC took it, and they had leased it, and then they got full ownership. So it's owned by CN now.
That's CNK National.
Yes.
The CNW is Chicago Northwestern.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just trying to be the advocate of people like
No,
myself.
no, no. See, that was my talk when I did my little news bit for our newsletter for Kagers.
Mm-hmm.
I do legacy along the right of way. So this month I talked about railroad slanguage.
Very good.
Well, basically, the rail fans, the foamers, they like to try to be like railroaders when they operate their trains. So they try to get our lingo, or how you talk. Like when I was in the Navy, the way we talked, we came up like, I say head and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody just looks at me, but another sailor knew what I was talking about. The same if you're a fireman,
You have
police in the police department. Even if you talk with acronyms and such.
Sure.
Railroaders, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We had descriptions for all the different jobs. Or like a conductor,
Mhm.
he's the OCR. Or a shack, brakeman,
Mhm.
snakehead. Even a cook, a lizard scorcher. Train dispatcher, he's a butterfly boy.
That one I never heard.
Fireman's a greaseball. Engineer, hogger, or hoghead.
Hoghead. No.
Yeah, because the roundhouse was referred to as the pig pen.
Yeah, every line of work has a little esoteric set of terms like that, and a lot of them seem to be vanishing, like from the police department. I think police.
I know the tradition sometimes doesn't stay.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a part of the past, and a past that a lot of the modern people would tend to forget.
Then also they get replaced by some other terms because of a certain generation comes along with a so-called education or something, and they're probably using some scientific or book terms that. No.
100 years ago, if you called somebody a hacker, they'd probably think you were talking about a really poor carpenter or a logger.
Or my doctor.
I thought he was the sawbones.
No, wait a minute. You seen a hacker like a computer hacker?
Yeah.
They didn't have the computers though 100 years ago. So.
No, well, yeah, but I mean, I'm sure there was a hacker in the vocabulary back then.
Sure.
But it meant something different.
Yeah, something
Well,
more,
yeah, but
more
you know,
literal.
Like we had the caboose, right?
Mhm.
The caboose had a lot of different names. It was a van. It was a cabin.
Cabini, way car.
Yeah, but that's gone away. Though we still found out we need cabooses for backup moves and short switching runs.
Shoving platforms.
We brought that up before here.
Yeah,
Sean.
there you go. So
Yeah.
then, okay. Well, they have a new device now, so the railroaders came up with their own lingo for that.
What's that?
They call it a FRED.
Fred?
Yeah, or an EOT. End of train device.
EOT.
A FRED is a flashing rear end device in polite company.
And if they stick a flag on the back end, it's a flapping rear end device.
Yes, it is.
Is that true?
And then you have a dumb FRED and a smart FRED. A dumb FRED is just a blinking light.
Mm-hmm.
A smart FRED has electronic gear in it to talk to the locomotive to let them know how much air pressure is back there, and also provides the emergency release.
On a emergency release. On that happy note, we're going to have a little break here. Thank you for the word. Works perfectly. We'll be back in a moment, folks. Okay.
You are listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, June the 9th, the year 2014. And now, back to our panel and Chicago Junction.
Okay, we're back. Black in a Flash. I hope you enjoyed the little break. We sure did. And we're talking about railroad lingo and terminology and how it relates to the modern day. And we have anything else? Is anything else on that? Anyone?
Well, I'd like to move the topic onto something that's been going on recently, and that is through my affiliation with the Black Hawk chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. The national chapter is in terrible financial trouble, and part of the reason is that there's a lessening of memberships. Fewer people are joining, and I had a discussion with the president on Friday when I went to the meeting, and he's in a quandary as to how to get younger people interested. In today's day and age of computers and stuff, people are more apt to go online and socialize online as opposed to attending meetings or joining groups. Before, you'd have to go to a meeting to actually see slides, photographs, slideshows of equipment, locomotives, presentations. Now, there's numerous sites online that post railroad photographs. So there really isn't a need for that anymore. And I don't know if Doug would like to address that issue from his point of view.
Yeah, we have the same problem over at Railroad and Short Lines Club. That's why it's Railroad and Short Lines. It's actually a merger of two groups. One which was relatively inactive and one that was active but with declining membership. It's just a matter of, you hit the nail on the head. It's the matter of age. That's it, getting the kids out there. That's a social problem. You hear about it, get the kids off the video games and outside.
Yeah, you make a good point. We said social because learning and education shouldn't just be books and facts and sitting in front of or accessing something. You actually have to interact with others, and that's something where when you talk about. Well, they used to say, "Oh, what do you think about homeschooling?" They said, "We homeschooled our kids, but they also went to school. Their education didn't stop at 3 o'clock." But interaction is a very important thing, and it seems like some of the skills that the kids should be learning, maybe they're not, because they are so much on the texting and looking, going on the internet.
Well, you even look at how rude people are online. They wouldn't be rude to you in your face, but you go on Facebook and you see some of the insults that people throw at one another, and it's like diminishing being socialized. I wouldn't come up to somebody's face and say some of the things I've seen on Facebook, because it's not right. But when you're anonymous, online anonymous, you can say and do what you want, and there's no ramifications, no repercussions for it. And
is there some sort of expectation you have to be nasty or abrasive anywhere? Or is that it?
I just think that's the way the world's going. I just think people are so polarized nowadays.
It's also a case of, well, I can do it, so
Yeah,
I will.
right.
Before, there used to be a restraint involved.
Another.
You went out and told somebody they're a jerk, they probably hit you. Now, you sit at your keyboard and say you're a jerk, you know you're not going to get hit.
They may come out and find you and shoot you.
Try anyway.
Do you want to say something, Kev?
There was a time when all of us were younger, and unfortunately, I think the median age at this table is on the wrong side of 50. But we knew we weren't afraid to talk to people face to face. We weren't afraid to go out and interview for a job. Now so much of it is done online, and by the time someone decides they want to seriously talk to you about a job, you've gone back and forth on the computer 4 or 5 times, and then when the young people get in there, they stumble all over themselves because they're not used to talking face to face to another breathing person. I was just at a week of training with the Scouts, and one of the people that was conducting the course said that she had been at a job fair and was shocked at the inability of young people to communicate face to face, and it's just my opinion, and I'm not trying to provoke an argument, but basically you take somebody under 30 and you take away their spell check and their calculator, and you might as well be dealing with a person from a foreign planet, because they can't read and they can't write, and they can't do math.
Well, that's part of the problem why we're not attracting members. The other one is train shows. We need, and I don't know how many train shows you guys go to, right? But that's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking more of the model railroad train shows.
Right.
Short lines, when I was running short lines, we were reasonably successful because I would go to all the model train shows, twist their arm, get me a free table. And I would just hand out literature saying, here's a club that has the real ones. We have pictures, we have resources, and of course I always had a little picture of Thomas on the table to attract people. But that seemed to work. I stayed away from the rail fan shows and went to the model railroad shows. Guys maybe should think about going to model railroad shows instead. And if you want, we'll be more than happy to do a joint operation with you on that. I think all the clubs need to get together and start saying, we're here, guys.
I think Bill Maloney, who's the president of the Blackhawk chapter, does a mix. He goes to a lot of different events, including
I see
model
that
railroad
South
shows.
Lawndale one.
Yeah. So it's like this. I was going to mention this Kane County, which was just last Sunday. That used to be huge. I mean, it was like 3 buildings plus outdoors. It's gone down to 1 building. And why is that? Because people trade online now. And that's another a loss of socializing, where people used to get together at these things and meet and talk, and you get to meet new people. How do you meet new people online when you're selling stuff on eBay?
You meet the new people, you see the old friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of the old timers, unfortunately, aren't around anymore.
No.
It's sad, but we're losing the older crowd.
Yep.
It seems strange to be on the low end of 60 and talking about the older crowd, but that's true in my case. The people that are 10 and 20 years older than I am, who can really remember when steam was,
They don't care.
they're not around to talk to anymore, or they've lost the ability to communicate.
Well, the other side of the coin, too, is how prevalent is railroads in our society. They've gone through a major contraction. It used to be that you can go a couple of miles and cross a couple of rail lines. Today,
Chicago.
you can go a couple of 100 miles before you might see a rail line. So it's not in everybody's face any longer. It's now more like, oh, it's that dirty thing down the street
Yeah.
here.
People view them as a nuisance as opposed to being a normal part of life.
Exactly.
Oh, I got to wait for a train. Oh.
Yeah, whereas they wanted the trains to be there before, to come to your town, come through your town, or whatever.
Well, though some are trying, a lot of the railroads, because of what happened like during the 70s and 80s in particular, CSX, big offender, they are not public oriented. They don't care. They'll say what they want about their system in their ads, but they don't go out of their way to integrate themselves with the communities the way railroads used to do.
That's right.
Railroads were part of every community.
Well, you can go online and look at any number of promotional films that these railroads put together that were, shown to the public about them, what they did, what their important, vital role in the nation's economy was. And they don't spend money on that anymore. They have commercials on TV, big deal. 30 seconds, 60 seconds, what does that tell you? Nothing.
So, like a lot of other industries, maybe they're concentrated in a boardroom with the suits rather than someone down in Chicago and Philly and Indianapolis and everywhere else.
Yeah, but there are Union Pacific still tries to get to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Norfolk Southern has made great strides in going to the public again after the lawyer takeover in the 90s. They have a couple people in there who weren't around during the steam era that firmly believe we got to remember our heritage and we got to tell the people about us. That's why they did the heritage units 2 years ago. That's why they introduced the 21st Century STEAM program.
Yeah, the heritage units is where the Norfolk and Southern painted a number of their locomotives and all the component railroads that made up the NS all through the years, as through mergers and stuff. So each of those railroads is now represented by a locomotive paint scheme.
It's as if they were still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They took 20 locomotives. And so you could see the Pennsylvania again, the New York Central, the Wabash, the Nickel Plate.
Virginian,
The Southern.
Illinois Terminal.
So everybody had their own distinctive coloring, their own distinctive.
That is
Very
correct.
much so.
Well, that was a neat thing about the diesel era, I have to say. It was very colorful. They had the unique, the 50s, late 40s and early 50s were just fantastic. When you look at the most famous paint scheme anywhere, I have to admit, was derived in 1937 when they painted the first E unit for the Santa Fe and became the war bonnet. That is probably one of the most famous paint schemes for railroad identification, and it was definitely the most successful paint scheme from Lionel. That paint scheme ran for 18 straight years. And it was always his top-selling locomotive.
Couldn't railroads benefit? I mean, you think they'd benefit from this promotional thing with the public, or it never hurts to be a good neighbor, does it?
Yes, they can. It would probably, you'd be surprised how well, if railroads welcome, you don't have people protest, oh, you can't send another train through on this track.
Well, and most of the publicity railroads get now is via the media, which is sensationalist.
Yeah.
So every time there's a derailment, it's the lead story is dangerous chemicals through your town, explosions, death.
Okay,
They're doing it for decades, but all of a sudden it's a big deal.
Well, the storms that happened a month ago, and there was track being washed out alongside rivers and such. Sinkholes were forming all over the place. But there happened to be an oil train going over a section of track that got washed out by flooded river. Oh, there was a big train wreck of tank cars going into the river. Ah!
You don't have to tell Kevin or myself about how the press boys handle a lot of things. We're very familiar with it from our former racket. Police department, folks. That's what it was. That's like we know. We can't prove something. We can look at a story and tell them how much BS something is about a politician or whatever. Like what was so-and-so doing at this location at 2 a.m. in the morning when he was Sunday morning when he was robbed, or Monday morning would have been, or something. What was he even doing there? Well, he was.
They just had a situation at Metro where 3 engineers were suspended, what's technically called decertification. 2 on the Rock Island District for speeding, excess speed through crossovers, and 1 on the Electric District for running through a red signal. And I read the article online from the Tribune, and I contacted the writer, and I said, something you should know about if you're going to write about this stuff is the decertification process. So I directed him to the online site for the Code of Federal Regulations that covers engineer certification, and explained to him the whole process of what happens in a situation where an engineer, something happens, an incident occurs, he's not guilty, he's under suspicion. There's been a credible report that he's done something. The guy thanked me. He said, "Thank you very much. It was good information." And that's something that the media needs to know too, is like, stop calling the guy that's running the train the conductor. The conductor blew the whistle. The conductor put the train in emergency. You have all these people out there who are writing about industries, and they know nothing about it. And with a little bit of information, I'm sure they could do a much better job and understand what's going on out there and not be so sensationalist about it.
Then again, that's something that the railroads can do.
Right.
Is provide the information to the people to inform the press what certain practices happen.
Well, the trouble with the press is, and so much of the great segment of it is, I knew someone who had quit being a reporter and came on the job because he said the trouble was there was too much of never let the facts get in the way of a good story. And don't you think that's true out there?
Yeah, it is. It is, definitely.
The classic statement about truth and what goes in the paper is that when legend conflicts with the truth, print the legend. It's. I've had some personal experience with it, and I've talked to some people, including the priest that was my pastor at the time, and he told me, never get in a letter writing campaign with a man who buys ink by the barrel. I have personally, as a police officer, and I'll be, thank God, 10 years retired on the 16th of June, responded to a call, made an arrest for a home invasion, which is a pretty serious crime. It's when someone breaks into your house armed with a firearm.
It's an armed robbery in your house.
Yeah, well, it's a home invasion robbery.
Yeah.
And it was 2 inches, 2 columns. I don't remember which paper because it doesn't make any difference. I didn't recognize the name of the officer I was working with.
Right.
There was nothing about how the arrest was made other than an arrest was made.
Mm-hmm.
It was a piece of really good instinctive police work, not because I did it, but because of the way it happened, and I didn't recognize it.
Well, I had an experience too as a rather.
And it doesn't surprise me that they print the wrong thing about the railroad, because all they're looking for is something sensational.
I was saying this was kind of a sensational. It was actually a sensational incident that occurred at, and I'm not going to get into the particulars. I was involved, and the Tribune and the Sun-Times had the worst one. The best story that actually happened, had it just as it went down, was the Southwest News Herald, the local paper. They bothered to actually get the story, not to second-hand facts or assume or fill in whatever. And they did just as it went down.
And it gets worse because a lot of the newspapers, under budget constraints, are cutting back on the number of reporters they have. They've eliminated the photo departments in just about every newspaper around the country. Now they send the reporters out with a cell phone and say, take a picture.
Yeah.
Remember, was it last summer or 2 summers ago, a B-17 made a forced landing in a cornfield?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Sun-Times. Well, enough on that. Let's get back to something we can all agree on.
Okay.
We're going. Has anybody, model guys, ever been to Zentex model trains on West 18th Street?
I
heard of it?
have, but it's a
18th
long,
and where?
long time ago.
Yeah.
Where's that, 18th and where?
2001 West 18th.
On Damon.
Damon and 18th Street.
I didn't know there was one there. I passed by there.
It's right across the street, kitty corner from where Bishop's Chili used to be.
Okay, yeah, right. That's where it would be.
And it's an old tavern, and the train store's was up on the 2nd floor. I don't know if you can still get a beer on the 1st floor anymore.
I heard it's still around. I'm kind of curious. I want to check it out.
He was
Zentech?
Zentech, yeah, Zintec.
Get a hold of Railroad Joe.
Oh, God. Joe would know. Joe knows.
Coincidentally, I did
Joe
ask.
knows.
I did ask if they were still in business, and the answer was yes.
Yeah.
I've never been there. It's south end of the city, so I hang up
Last
the
time I
north
was
end.
in there, he was
Pretty west
predominantly
side,
into HO and brass. But he might have expanded since the last time I was in there.
I pledge the next time I have to go down to Rush Hospital, the old Presbyterian St. Luke's it used to be called, I'll stop and take a look. How's that? Be a field assignment.
I'm going to check that out, too. It sounds like an interesting... I heard his hours are sporadic.
Not only that, they're not regular.
It's been such a long time since I was down there. Grandma used to be on the 1st floor, and she was listening to WAIT when you could still get 40s music.
Ah, WIT, yes.
AM 820.
Yeah?
Thank you, Joe.
That's a dispatcher.
Or John.
There was WIT. We'd have it on at night when the kids were small. All of a sudden you hear, this is WIT. They wake everybody up, so it scared the kids. Beautiful music, wasn't it, though?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got next here?
Well,
Okay.
I can read a few items from the Blackhawk chapter newsletter. Let's see. END protests locomotive contract award to Siemens. Last December, the Illinois Department of Transportation announced that it issued a notice of intent to award to Siemens USA to design, build, and deliver approximately 35 high-performance diesel-electric locomotives for several Midwestern and West Coast states. The contract was bid on by Siemens, by Electromotive, and by Motive Power, and Siemens was a low bidder. Siemens won the bid, and EMD sued, claiming that the specifications that Siemens provided for the locomotives were not up to what the standards were for what they wanted for the locomotives. So I believe EMD lost that suit just recently.
Well, let's see. Well, we got the new trying to start a new run to Rockford. You take the Milwaukee Road out of Union Station, go to Elgin, then you make a right-hand turn on the CNW tracks, UP tracks, that go to Belvedere, the Belvedere sub. They'll hook up, and they're planning on having it in operation by the end of next year.
Now, will that be passenger?
Yes.
Amtrak. They're going to subsidize Amtrak route.
Do they still have a Chrysler plant in Belvedere?
Yes.
Right in the Chrysler Belvedere.
Well, that's where the Neon was made.
Oh.
Yeah, what do they make there now? I think it's Telhos? No, that's not them. I think they make their vans out there right now.
Well, Belvedere.
So this way, who knows? Maybe they'll eventually put a stop in Union.
I was going to say it'd be very close, wouldn't it?
Well, it goes right by it, yes.
Well, why didn't they stop there then? Hey, let's see if they can do that. Help out everybody. Help the.
Yeah, we'll start a new metro service going up there.
They do run an excursion up there every year.
Once a year, yeah.
Once a year.
Do they? Who runs that?
The UP. University Park. Union Pacific.
Oh, okay. UP.
Union Pacific.
Come on, remember I'm an outsider here.
Yeah.
I'm the guy looking through the knothole.
I'm still in Metroland here.
Yeah.
They're trying to establish a Blackhawk service, which has been going on for ages.
What is that now?
The Blackhawk service would go west to
Iowa.
LaSalle and let's see, Dubuque, Iowa, with several stops in between.
Mm-hmm.
While we're talking about riding the train, I've got a mailer sitting in front of me, and I meant to bring with me last month, from the 20th Century Railroad Club. It's their 2014 trip catalog. They still have several trips that will run through the end of the year. And without going into each of them, if you want more information, you may call 312-829-4500 or on the internet www.20thcentury.org.
20thcentury.org.
There is one trip running down to Springfield on Saturday, November 8th on Amtrak on the Lincoln service. It's $65 a person, and it includes a 4-hour on-the-ground stop to go through the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum.
65 round trip?
If it says $65 per person with a rate of $45 per person ages 2 through 15, and the full payment on that is due by September 22nd if it is not already booked out.
Yeah, that sounds like a good
But contact them. They do have some excursion trips. I know they've got one going over to Frankenmuth, and if you've never had the pleasure of going to Bronner's, where it's Christmas 361 days a year, if you could imagine 4 buildings the size of Kmart, all hooked together with nothing but Christmas items in it, that's Bronner's.
I've heard
and the village, the town of Frankenmuth is like a town out of northern Germany. Some beautiful things to see, some very nice restaurants. They've got a a restaurant that was a brewery at one time that serves some very nice food and has some very interesting beverages to drink. If my wife had her way, we'd be there at least once a month, 12 months a year.
I know the different church groups have making trips, so they start charter buses and go out there for the day. And do they have a Burgermeister there too?
I'm sure the mayor changes his jacket and becomes the Burgermeister.
Yeah, Burgermeister.
This is Brian's venue, the Heston Steam Museum.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be having a Civil War Railroad Days, June 21st through the 22nd.
That's correct.
And then their annual Steam and Power Show, August 29th through September 1st.
Yes, it is.
Been trying to get somebody out to talk from them for how long now? Are we?
Yep.
And
then we have,
what's the big deal?
I guess, to wrap up,
No, we're not repping yet, are we?
that's getting close.
Can I say something? Remember, we had our guest
Can
last.
you?
Oh, may I?
Well, that's why I wanted to say, because we got one more event.
Sure. Go.
You got the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in Owasso, Michigan on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
Of
June.
June, this month.
Yes.
Coming up.
Coming up, you'll have trips from Owasso to Alma behind Nickel Plate Railroad 765, Berkshire type locomotive, and Pierre Marquette 1225.
Okay.
Another type of Berkshire. Also the inspiration for the
Polar Express.
Polar Express.
Well, that's what it was?
Yes.
Oh.
You'll have the smallest standard gauge Pacific there, Little River number 110. You have 6 switchers, saddle tank switchers that'll be there. All of them are operating with pay by the hour cab. Give you locomotive, you drive the engine for an hour.
Oh.
And they're doing this with 6 switchers. And the Leviathan will be there.
Okay.
Also, you have Galesburg Railroad Days coming up the weekend, including Saturday, June 28th. If you've never done it before, it's a great way to spend a day. Matter of fact, it's a great way to spend a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a pretty decent toy and train show down there. They have yard tours. They have an operating hump track down there, and you can watch them building a train as the cars go over the top of the hill and come down the hump track and get automatically sorted. They've got a restaurant there that was an old Swift meat packing plant, and I believe it's called the packing plant. And I've had a few meals there, and I had absolutely no complaints about the food. Matter of fact, I took an old REA baggage cart and cleaned it up, and that's the salad bar. So the salad bar is the size, it's like 3 foot by 6 foot or 8 foot. So if you can't build a salad that you like, you don't like rabbit food.
Well, we remember last show we had an interview, a call-in from Galesburg for that very event, Railroad Days, DAYS. Now, we had Mayor Barrett Peterson as a guest last time for Franklin Park. The village of Franklin Park are having their Railroad Days, DAZE, starting Thursday through Sunday. And if you're interested, you can go to villageoffranklinpark.com, and all the directions, specifics are there, or give the village a call, 847-671-4800. And he was a very good guest.
And Saturday is the day for the trains, 10 to 3.
Okay.
The railroad equipment will be there on Saturday only.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. Is anyone else going to be out there? Are you going to be?
Yes, Midwest Rails will be out there with the modular G-gauge layout. They'll be set up by the caboose in B10. And unfortunately, I will not be there because I'll be working with the Boy Scouts that Saturday.
Oh, you too, huh?
Operation Lifesaver.
Oh, very good. Anyway, we're just about at the end of the line here. Oh, no pun intended. But remember, folks, may happy rails to you.
All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Join us again next time on another journey of imagination to the wonderful world of trains and railroads. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network and can be heard over the station as well as windycityhometown.com, where recordings of all our shows can be found. Be sure to look for Chicago Junction on Facebook, where links to these shows and other items of interest can be found. The opinions expressed on this previous program do not necessarily reflect those of the station, its management, or that of the Windy City Hometown Network. This is your announcer, Brian Blue, thanking you for listening and hoping you will join us again for another trip to the Chicago Junction. Our conductor was portrayed by Charlie Johnson, a struggling young actor who is underpaid and gratefully accepts tips.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John Nevada Broadcast Center on the northwest side. Chicago Junction was directed by John Nevada, produced by Jack Ryan, edited by Stephen Lehman, and our audio engineer is James Rohde. The executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is Mr. John Chiconda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Monday, June the 9th, the year 2014. Until next time, be safe, and thanks for listening.